this new thing is supposed to make me uncomfortable. It's not a sign telling me I shouldn't do it, which people conveniently lean into.
I think people mess up the signs.
Yeah, they go, because I feel this way, it means I should be doing it, right? And because I think we've gotten to a place where, and I don't think we've gotten to a place, I think we've always been to a place where we say comfort is good and discomfort means bad, right? And so I should fight or flight from it. But what you're saying, I think it's really great for people to capture is, like, I feel that discomfort, but I know how to navigate it. I am aware of where it's coming from. I'm aware of why it's there in the first place.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Push Podcast. I'm Janelle.
And I'm Eddie.
And this is episode number 99, almost to 100. We've got a special guest today. He's about to be an author. He is the shift man, all shift, not shit, but shift. Yes. Really great mindset work this guy does. We've been big fans for a while. And Anthony Trucks was on episode number 30, right when the pandemic started, and we thought it'd be an amazing thing to bring him back and talk about post-pandemic and pivots and just all things mindset that you've got going on, because you're doing a lot right now, sir. So everybody welcome Anthony Trucks.
Hey, we're working on neat buttons.
He's got it.
Hey, I promise you that she always likes to say shit when she's like, I think she's just an excuse to say a bad word.
Leave me alone.
We do women and poop. It's a good conversation I want to talk about. Like my wife, she goes to the bathroom. I go, hey, you getting that doo-doo out there, girl? Like, she hates it.
Oh my God, that's disgusting.
All the time.
That word.
Poop it in there? Yeah, you can get that doo-doo out, girl. Get it.
Oh my God. Way to kick this off. That's my what in the world right there. Anthony Trucks, feeling really comfortable. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm almost always comfortable. I live in my skin, man. I enjoy my skin, so it's all good in the hood.
Love it. Love it. Okay, let's kick this off. I hear you have a what in the world to share with us.
Yeah, you ready? Here it goes. So
yeah.
I was going through the interwebs of craziness. That thing it's a cesspool of weird. And anyway, so this video pops up of this girl. She's an interview. I don't know where it's taking place, but it's like a nice interview. There's like multiple people there, and she's talking about the story of, she's like, well, when I'm dating a guy, when he starts buying me things and doing this stuff, whatever it may be, just because we're not dating no more doesn't mean you get to just rip the pedestal off underneath me, because I've been accustomed to this lifestyle now. So if you take my stuff, I'm gonna come break your stuff. Like, it's this really weird dynamic of her assumption that it's weird. And there's guys that are like, wait, so you're telling me, he's like, but you realize that's like if you're dating me, that's what happens. If you're not dating me, you don't get that. Well, then you want girls with you just for your stuff. And in my head, I'm like, that's why you're with him right now, though. I'm confused. That's exactly this was weird. So there's a world of people that believe that their duty and their beauty, their, I guess, strength in the world is they're just good looking. And because of that, you have to pay for their stuff. And how dare you consider taking it away because they're not dating no more. So that's my what in the world.
You know what? I think I understand her.
I'm
just joking.
What?
I'm just joking.
I understand what Brain's thinking. I don't understand how it's sanity, but it'd be what it be.
Well, speaking of,
can we clarify though? That's not long-term dating. Because at first I was like, yeah, that makes sense though. Like, you bring someone in, you're dating someone, they come and live in your house, you're together like 5-6 years. Like, I understand it. Let's say that she says, I helped you build this business. Like, this is my lifestyle too. You said, yeah, it's not anything like that though.
Not even close. This chick is just crazy. It's weird.
And I'm pretty sure when you look in her eyes, she like completely believes what she's saying. She's like, "This is right.
Oh,
this is this is my word, right?"
I would venture to believe full 100% believes it. It means to the point where she's battling, she's arguing back, and she had me for a moment. Like, am I tripping? No, like you get to that point, like, wait, what? Is that real? No. So, woman was tripping.
Oh my God.
Goodness.
So I do have what in the world. Speaking of a cesspool of weirdness, I go on social media, right? And all of a sudden I see this nude man in the middle of the street.
Okay.
Oh. And he is like, yes. And he pulls the front end of a car, the bumper off the car. And I was like, oh my, that is, how kind of, and the car is moving, by the way. It's not like it's parked. It's moving. He rips it off.
Mm-hmm. He's in oncoming traffic.
Right. So I think he's an Avenger that gone wild. Right.
He lays down like it's 100-some degrees outside. He's laying down on the ground butt naked. I mean,
butt naked. Why does not? How come I'm not in I want to film something like that. That's
drugs.
No,
that's
but
drugs.
I'm just saying, what in the world is? How come I don't see crazy stuff like that all the time? That's exciting.
I feel like I do.
Yeah.
I see lots of crazy
like, I don't want to
stuff.
see that.
Yeah. I see that all the time. I went to downtown LA last night or yesterday. I saw a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, that would be a highlight of my day. I would be talking about that'd be coffee chat talk, right?
It just happens so fast though that most times I can't record it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have many run-ins.
I saw that and I was like, I don't understand the world. Like what?
It's crazy. Yeah. I was watching this video this morning of like this. It was scary to me. I'm like, I'm gonna teach my daughter how to use a gun for sure. But like, it's just a collection of women like filming men like approach them publicly in weird ways, like following them places. Like this old guys like doing weird like winky faces, tongue out. It's like hella odd. And I'm like, then one video, it's this woman who's like, I ran home and slammed the door, and her Ring camera recorded some dude peeking in like her sliding door and everything. So I'm like, yeah, my daughter's gonna be like having like guns around the house. I'm gonna teach her to do it.
I think it's a must though. We went actually last Father's Day. We took the kids to the gun range and we taught them all three of our daughters, we taught them how to shoot. So one of them for sure, she will definitely protect herself. The other two, maybe a little questionable. They need more practice.
Well, and I'll say this, like we watched Black Widow and I think I'm doing parenting all wrong. I should have sent them to Russia for that training.
Russia, bro.
Yeah.
That's the whole like ovary removal thing. But yeah,
I know. Besides that,
it was a good movie. I watched it too, man.
I watched somebody. Yeah, this girl. She fell from like 6 floors and landed on her feet.
Yeah.
And I was like, they trained her to do that.
But that's female directors right there, right? The female directors like said, you're going to fight, damn it. And so yesterday, though, we were with our youngest and she was talking about how good the movie was. And she was like, that's a female director's mom. You know, they went hard.
They did go hard.
I said, I'm not condoning what happened, but wouldn't it be pretty badass if you were like a Russian spy / what is the killer?
Yeah, assassin.
Mm-hmm. And she goes, I'm not going to lie. That's pretty dope. I was like, I've done this wrong. Like I literally said what you just said. We didn't need you in gymnastics. We needed you to be a trained assassin. Like that's what we did wrong. And she goes, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, should have done it. In my head, I tell my wife all the time, because I grew up in foster care and weirdness, right? I'm like, I would have been a phenomenal spy. Like I can speak and I'm in some kind of shape. And I'm like, okay, like I don't know how much that would have been, but like, dude, I had like this guy grew up and was given away, and then like he started killing the entire world. Like that'd have been dope, like, you know. Anyways, but only the people who deserve to die, not just random people. The people who like, you know, the pedophiles and weird ones, those people, they gotta go. And no one would even miss them. No one would miss them, and that'd be some guy in the shadow of the night and be making movies about him.
Stepping back into the shadows.
Yeah.
Oh like my God.
Passport like 17 passports from countries that wouldn't allow me in anyways. It'd be cool.
That's awesome.
Okay, well, I feel like we could go all day about this what in the world, but let's get to business. So episode 30, it was definitely very informative, but episode 30, Anthony Trucks shared so much goodness on just a lot of the things that you coach on. Can we start there? We were talking about the pandemic. We were talking about, you know, the perspective shifts that you want people to have. And right around that time, which was like, I think March, April-ish, the pandemic was hitting. And it was interesting to see how people were either like completely stifled, or some people were ready to pivot. Some people were excited for this new world, new change, like what's going to happen. Talk to the people about what you saw, what you learned, how you pivoted. It's been a crazy year, so catch us up.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. Man, I don't know, man. What did I do? You know what I did? I did what everybody else did. I sat there like, nah, this ain't gonna last. This isn't real for a while. Because that's what the normal thing is, like, this isn't real. But then all of a sudden I started like going to Target and found myself with like 3 shopping carts full of stuff. And I'm like, I'm gonna go. I bought a whole bunch of bullets. I still have like 500 rounds. I'm like, what if people start breaking in my house? Like, I'm gonna shoot them all. So
we did too.
You gotta do it.
Wait,
man.
How many rounds did you start with? You said I still have 500. Like, did you start with 1,000?
Yeah. Well, I had like, I think I already had some like home protected rounds, the ones that don't go through walls or whatever it was. But no, I still have that batch. I haven't used any of those, and range isn't open. So I wasn't out like outside shooting my gun in the air like there's some Purge movie. No. It was it. But then I think when it all started getting to the point of realizing what's turning into, I'm usually in touch with a lot of different points of contact, whether it's with like speakers bureaus and understanding that, or my agent, or the world of the online space and kind of how live events go. I have a bunch of weird groups I run in, and so I get a chance to almost see a little bit like a glimpse of what could be the future. And so what I noticed was, well, this isn't slowing down. Like none of it was slowing, it was speeding up. So I'm like, if it's all speeding up in this direction, I don't want to be the one that wakes up and goes, oh man, I missed the boat because I wasn't running. And I couldn't go on stages. So I was like, I got to redivert the energy somewhere. And a lot of people were like, oh, it's a time to sit down and chill. And it was time to sit down and chill. And here's what I realized. It was a good moment for those who were behind the ball to catch up. But I don't think everybody did that. I think a lot of people were like, well, if nobody else is moving, I'm good. I'm just gonna hang out right here because I'm not losing ground. But I was like, damn, well, I could gain some ground. So what I did is I sat back and said, well, what are the things that no one else knows right now? And it was like that, like I'd been in the online world for a while. Although I was a speaker, right? I've been in the online world. I've been doing some coaching. I hadn't really fully fleshed out that kind of structure. But I was like, what if I just dig in? So like, I remember getting in the beginning and I felt like a superhero because no one knew how to like, how do you make somebody else in Zoom be able to share their screen? Like, let me show you. Like, because I had been using Zoom for a while. It's like I took advantage of the fact that I was ahead of the game. So what I did is I built the studio. I was like, well, if no one's going to be in places, I don't want to be the guy that looks like everybody else. So I'm going to just build the studio out real quick so I can do virtuals because people still want their people to be talked to. So I did the studio thing. I started developing more of like the team for like the ads and the online traffic because I want to make sure I'm driving traffic to the business without being predicated on what it was previously, which was word of mouth, some social content, but stages were a big thing. Every time I go to a speech, I would usually, add a good, 400 to 4,000 new people on the social. And on top of that, that always can turn into some kind of business. I'm like, and I was doing at least a speech a month. So I'm like, we're moving, real big deal. But that shut down. I'm like, well, I can't rely upon that. What do I do? So I was proactive in looking at things, but also here's the thing is as I took a step, I didn't take it without understanding what that piece was. So I talked to a lot of people who had already been doing that before the thing shut down. Because like when it shuts down, there's people that have already been doing the thing you're trying to do, right? My guy like Brandon Bouchard, like he's been doing this for years. He's not stressing out. It may change the eventscape a little bit, but the online, he's got it. So I'm like, all right, I'm about to do this thing. A, B, what do I do here, right? So just ask questions of people and then do exactly what they told me to do. Yeah. I'm not trying to change the cookie recipe, man. Do exactly what they tell you to do. And then you start doing it. And then what happens is the more you lean in and start flowing, you create your own momentum. And that momentum, it turned into more revenue in 2020 than I had in any other year of the business because I'd spent more time in an area when, one, I was delving in and I already built a good rapport with the online world because of my in-person stuff, right? Social proof of being on stages. But two, because everybody else was chilling. Most people chilled for a bit. They sat back, they were hanging out, watching the world, sitting in their house, getting stressed out. Totally cool. I was like, well, I love my family, so it's easy to sit here and hang with them. Like, we're cool. So like, I don't got to drive you to school in the morning. That means I can get up earlier and I don't got to have that half-hour break and whatever. And I don't got to pick you up. I could just sit in the studio and do work, bro. I'm getting more work done. So I got more done and it turned into something cool, man. So at this point now, it's funny as we're kind of, and also I did this. I didn't say no to a podcast. I committed to anytime. I didn't tell the world that though, but anytime anybody asked me, I'm like, I got you. Let's do it. I was doing at one point, I think I did like 40 podcasts in a week. They weren't all an hour, but it was just, I'm talking days of just 10 hours straight. I felt like one was for sure 9 hours of podcast straight. Like just,
oh my goodness.
It was a lot, right? But here's the thing, as the world opened up, because I've been seen by so many people in so many walks of life, we now have more virtual events rolling. We're booked up for the live events in rock. And like October, July, August, September, and October are packed for me for speaking. Virtual, in person. There's somewhere I'm going to a speech, doing a speech for 25K. And then I'm doing a virtual the morning of in my hotel room for that. So just being there and do it, like I'm talking, we're killing it. It's good. Yeah, so this is amazing. All because I leaned into the podcast. I built the studio out because people wanted to have like me on the podcast. So it all worked out. And then I was really big on building out the coaching structure. So I've got executives that I'm working with now. We have companies we're working with now, individuals. So it builds and it builds and it builds. And so I use it as a really good springboard.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Love that.
I love that. And it's interesting because, when we talked, you were like formulating, and even then, I don't know if you remember this, but you said you were refraining from like aspirational messages at that time because people weren't in an aspirational mood. And it sounded like at that point in time you were like crafting like what should I be saying to people? What do people need at that moment? And it sounds like that worked out. So that's a beautiful thing.
So what did they need, Mr. Trucks? What did you find that, people needed you to teach them at that time?
Yeah, well, the people you're best suited to serve are those who are where you used to be. And so if you can frame up that you were where they are now, then it's like, oh, it's easy. So for me, it's like people that wanted to get on and do the speaking and wanted to do the coaching programs. Like this was pretty straightforward. So a lot of my clients like, give me the behind the scenes of how to get this all set up. Because the easy low hanging fruit for most people is to do speeches. I don't got to do any tech. I just got to tell my world what my story is, get them to come book me and come do my thing, right? Or tell them I'm a coach on social media and then go out to a couple of schools and get some shots of me doing it. So it's easier to get coaching clients. So I started teaching people what I'd been doing, which is how do you create a framework for your coaching process and the tech behind the scenes, we'll call it, and just get those things built up. And then what ended up happening was, it's interesting. I thought no one wanted aspirational stuff. And as much as people, I didn't think they wanted to buy it. They needed it though. They actually did. Because the reason a lot of people were sitting stagnant was because they didn't feel adequate. Because now here's what I noticed. The entire world was on the same playing field. It wasn't where you had, a live event and a retreat and you got some television stuff and everybody was online, everybody, which means that if you were the kid, like, the second grader on the playground and all of a sudden the sixth graders playground got shut down, the sixth graders started hanging out with the second graders in the same playground. So now you had all the vets, everybody coming back to the online, they were all in there. So most people were like, damn, how do I compete with that person? Right. So it was actually it's like this closing of like my capabilities and my opportunities in their heart, when the reality was, of that person. Your ideal client usually doesn't though. So to be quite honest, the conversation being had, they may watch a video and dislike that person, but if you're lined up right next to them, you're good. But the reality is most people felt so bad, they removed themselves from the situation. So no one saw them. Right. So I did find that over time, like the work I do from the personal human standpoint, that actually became more the work I did, because when you start building and working on that part of it, the way that I do with my methods, it inherently has an action portion of it. So you're doing things. And in the doing of things, they were getting that feedback that they needed, which was, oh, actually, I'm pretty good. I'm dope. I can do great things. So you start taking more actions, doing more videos, build. And so I had clients that were, one of my clients, Natasha, literally launched, and I might have said this last time, but she launched this program that was teaching people how to go online with their physical therapy business. And she made in 4 weeks, $95,000 off a program that I had to talk her into doing. I'm like, you could do it. No, I don't think I could do it. Like you could do it. I'm telling you could do it. Right. One of my other clients, Frank, this dude, we were working together, and his thing is he'd already sold $1 million business for $1 million. It was going to this whole coaching thing. And he had this inherent thought of like, it might've been an accident. I don't know if I can do that again. So we worked through the human part of him. He sent me a message maybe 2-3 days ago, something like that. And it says in there, I want to show you, I had my head down working 2020 at this point from our coaching. We stopped coaching a while ago, but he kept on going. But he's like, I can attribute this to you. I've now made $1,056,000 since we started. And on a whole new online business, right? And so the reality is, and he's got different coaches past me that helped him get to that. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I was responsible. Not, but the opening of the gate to get him to run was the human stuff we worked on, right? So I did find after a while that I probably was kind of wrong, that people, I didn't think they were buying the aspirational because it was all freak out mode, but they actually did need and want that. Because once they started getting the tools, the issue wasn't the tools. It wasn't like they needed more tools. They still weren't doing it. Like, why aren't we doing it? Well, because this person is doing that and everybody knows them. But what if I go live and my competitor sees me and they say something about something I said wrong, and then I got to feel bad because then, they make me look bad. But what are you talking about? Right. So this became the conversation internally. So I just help people kind of change the conversation inside.
And what's great about that, and I just hope that like the audience capture that, because even then people didn't know what to do, and even now people don't know what to do. And I like how you I like to think of it like you had a hypothesis, and even in that hypothesis, when you went to go like prove it out and you went into action, you were still aware of like, oh wow, I may not be right about this. I may need to modify and change and adjust. based on my hypothesis and create a whole new one based on what I'm seeing and hearing. And I think as we think about the rest of 2021 and then 2022, like where people go, I think that action and being in action is so important so that you can learn about like, are your assumptions correct?
Right. So I think it's important to point out Anthony Trucks, works with coaches like us. You work with speakers that do what, they're trying to aspire to do what you said. Like you said, I'm working with people who have done where they're trying to go, right? And we work with small business owners that are just trying to take this idea or this passion or this talent and kind of ship it out into the world, through processes. You're doing the same thing. It's just to a different client, right? Yeah. But I hear so much of the same stuff, like, well, what if my competitors see, I'm not ready for this? What if it's not right? What if I say something wrong or do something wrong? And I hope that the audience gets that, because regardless of what level you're at, I'm sure that there are people above, let's say, Brendan Burchard, who are trying to do new and different things. I'm sure you're trying to do new and different things. I think it's important to point out, anytime you're ready to go to that next level or take that next step, there's always that doubt. There's always that insecurity. There's always that unsure, like, oh, I don't know if people are going to come for me, if I'm ready for this, all of those doubts, right? And have you had those in anything that you've been doing recently? Because you are about to be a published author.
Yeah. I have a first book that was self-published. Those are natural things, though. I think at this point, I palpably desire those. It's a weird, like I can taste discomfort. I like the flavor. It sounds odd, but I think football taught us this. Because there's moments you go in these games against these people and it's like, I'm not gonna do well, but like, I'm not gonna die. So let's just go see what we can do, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is like, I'll be transparent 100%. Listen, so I have a publicist we work with right now. It's great that we're gonna touch on this because I'm a human. I'm tell all the good goods. So I have a list of individuals that I've been compiling of like, hey, when it comes time for the book, like let me know. And I'm like, great, I put them on a list. It's probably like, I want to say like 44 people that are all good humans that have some audiences. Like when it comes time, let me know, give me the book, we'll share it. So my publicist, she's like, I need you to make me a list of all these people. Now there's two lists I have. It's like a list 1 and list 2. So list 1 is a list of all the people that I know that have all, like, it's interesting. They've expressed they'll help me. It's the Brendan Burchard, the Russells, the Trent Sheltons, and Lewis Howe. They're all be like, hey, when it comes time, let me know. They're all on list 1. List 2 is the one of everybody else that I've been on their podcast, hanging out, talking, not in this mastermind I'm with. That list was easy to make and contact. For some reason, I have found myself sitting here going, but what if one of them doesn't like the book? What if they're like, so I haven't even filled out the list. This is to this very moment, just so you're aware. I'm hanging out with them. I'm going out on Thursday to be, I did the Own Your Future Challenge with Dean and Tony. I'm going to be on that Thursday. So I'll be out in person with them. I'm actually going to I'm getting over my stupid little weird internal hump. I'm just going to be like, hey guys, I got books. I'm hacking books. Take one. Like I'm going to do all that. Right. But no, it's been this weird internal. So to be the position I'm in, like, I do have apprehension around certain things because I have these same human thoughts. However, I enjoy the position of it because I know I'll navigate it, right? This hasn't been going on forever. It's just like last week I got to make the list and so we're like 3 days behind for making a list. It's not like I'm sitting here like, it's been 2 months and I don't know, we're not doing all that right now.
Right.
But it's like, it's one of those things I can easily push off. But yeah, the thing is, once you get over those humps though, here's what I do know logically. Like, I'm not going to die if they say no.
Right.
If no one likes the book, that's okay. It's a blip in the radar for like the long run. And to be quite honest, that they're not supposed to have the book. I didn't write it for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the idea is like, we get these conversations, but I don't think we go to the point of like, why you're tripping though? Like you're in your own head for no reason whatsoever. Right. So when I go and look at the logic part of my brain, the non-emotional, careening train down the fear of failure track, it's like, oh, you're tripping, man. There's nothing really to be scared of. And so for me, like, yeah, that is, I'm a human. I deal with it, but I have a different way of overcoming it. And a lot of it boils down to the identity portion, right? Because this is one of the things that for me is I don't yet have an identity as an author, right? I have an identity as a speaker, coach, bro, put me in. Well, I have no problem. Throw me on the stage right this very second. I got it, right? Put me in a football field. I run around, do my thing. I can train, I can coach. But stepping into the author realm, that's where I'm like, ooh, right? So that is because I haven't done the author things. It hasn't been published, hasn't been put out. But after time, I'm going to get there. Even if the first book bombs, right? Even if it bombs, I still have the ownership of that. So the next stage is easier and easier, but I'm aware that the reason I feel this way is because I'm developing the identity of the author within me.
Mm,
Well, multiple identities. So that's where that kind of emotional thing comes from, but it applies to anybody stepping into something new, like you just said. I don't
yeah.
care how much success you've had in some area. When you enter a new space, you don't have yet a crafted or structured identity there. You will feel that emotion. And the only way to get what you want, like that, I want to feel like I'm that person, is to lean heavily towards the stuff you're not comfortable with.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, and what's great about that is, and I'm glad you shared that, because I think when people hear that, I think it gives them a little bit of comfort of understanding, oh, I'm supposed to feel like this, right? Like
Yeah.
this new thing is supposed to make me uncomfortable. It's not a sign telling me I shouldn't do it,
Right.
which people conveniently lean into.
I
They
think
say,
people mess up the signs.
yeah, they go, oh,
Right.
the way because I feel this way means I should be doing it,
Right.
right? And because I think we've gotten to a place where, and I don't think we've gotten to a place. I think we've always been to a place where we say comfort is good and discomfort means bad, right? And so I should fight or flight from it. But what you're saying, and I think it's really great for people to capture, is like, I feel that discomfort, but I know how to navigate it. I am aware of where it's coming from. I'm aware of why it's there in the first place.
It's also like a handbook to life, though, right?
Yeah.
Like that is literally the answer to pursuing anything that you haven't done before. And so I think we need to give ourselves grace in knowing that, oh, it's probably going to come up that I feel like I'm an imposter. I feel like I don't belong. I feel like this is unfamiliar, because this shit is unfamiliar, right? And so until you actually do it, then if you don't actually do it, you won't ever be able to gain that confidence that you'll need to feel like an actual author. That happens in every new step, I think, that you try to achieve in your life. And so I think that's the rule book right there, is like, it's normal for you to feel that way. But yeah, do you stay stuck, or do you push through and work on the identity shift, I think, which is exactly what you're talking about. So you have to be the author. You got to get familiar with the author title, own that new identity. And then it's just like stepping on the stage or the football, field.
Right.
Now it's second nature. So talk to us, Anthony, about the book. What, you said maybe the Dean Graziosis or the Tony Robbins in the world, they're not really your ideal readers anyway. So if they don't like the book, it doesn't matter. I think that's freeing in itself, right? Because we want everyone's approval, but the reality is you didn't write it for them, right?
Yeah.
So who did you write it for, and what can people get from it? Because we're going to be giving away some books today on the podcast.
Yeah, no, I wrote it for everybody, man. In fact, so my editor had me take this out, and I wish I would have put it in. But at one point, I wrote in the book, and it says, "I am not a scientific dude. I'm a regular guy with an irregular desire to help people, and this is going to be written just from a regular guy's perspective. We're not going to go sciencey. We're not going to go, but like I literally said that. She's like, oh, you should take that out because it makes you seem like you're not like credible. Like it ain't about that. Like if you read the book or you get into it, like you understand I'm credible. But the funny thing was like I wanted people to realize this isn't supposed to come from like a Harvard, Stanford, medical researcher. Because I read those books and they are for me hard to consume. Like I got textbooks that are in college that are like I need a dictionary legitimately just to read it. So like for me, I wrote the book for the person that's like, I am at a point in my life where I've done the things and tried and struggled and faltered and failed, and I can't figure out what the blockage is. Right? It's not for the 20 something who is like, I'm venturing into life. It'll help that person 100%. But sometimes that person's not open to the fact that they're not perfect yet. They're still invincible. This is for that person that's gone. I call it the sophomore season of life. We did the freshman year. It was all fresh and new. Now I'm like, oh, damn, I get what college is really about. Not time to settle in. Right. And so it's for that person. It's like, okay, I've read the books and I've done some of the work. I've gone to the seminars and I've done that stuff. And now it's like, and I got the info, but why is this stuff not coming to pass? Why have I invested and not got the return? So the book is for that person trying to figure it out. And this is where we dive into the human of you. And I want people to grasp that it's not one of those books where it's like, you're broken, there's something wrong with you and you got to fix it. It has nothing to do with that. Because the thing what's cool about identity is it's really something that you set based on the dream that you have, right? For some people, like I got a best friend, his dream is already been met for life for the most part. He has a job, pays his bills, he gets 401k. Like he said, this book isn't for him either because he's good where he's at. And I love that he's good where he's at. He's happy and peaceful. It's for the person that says, I've been desiring more, I've been fighting for more, but I don't have more yet. And when I look in the mirror, I realize that there's things like we just talked about that hang me up. And it shows up in excuses. It shows up in justifications, not taking blame. It shows up in feeling apprehensive to step into a new space, to try something new because of what will people think and how will people view me. It's just all those little things. So it's written for the person that wants to shift into that person that is at that level of like internal, like, you know, that feeling when you know you've done the work. And if someone was to ask you questions, you could fire off like, how dare you know how dope I am? Like, but it's in you. And I think we call it confidence, right? It's that, it's like, it's what I think it's where confidence is this thing where it's like, I just know that you can't, for what I'm doing, you can't poke holes. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, so like when you got up on stage, when people are like, what do you think you're doing getting up on a stage? B, do you know how many hours of workouts I've done and nutrition and training and cooking and prep? You know what I've done? There's a different level, right? So I believe that what we do in the dark, it comes out in the light. And if you didn't do much in the dark, it doesn't shine very bright. But when you've done that work in the dark, so I teach people how to do the right work in the dark so they can shine where they want to in the light. And they don't have that fear of someone poking holes, or they have the fear of, you know, what if somebody outs me? It's like you can shift into that person where like you have that weird confidence, you execute like crazy, you got a weird flow, and you do things at a crazy level. And people go, how do you do that? Like, are you superhuman? No, it's who I am. Because I've realized the people that I'm around that are crazy successful, the things that they do in their morning, like they can get more done. I can get more done in a genuine single day than most people can get done in a week. And I've tested this actually. I have clients that I bring on that they're go-getters, and we sit down and we break things down. And I've taken an entire 12-dot bullet list and got somebody to get it done within 48 hours that they've been sitting on for 2 weeks. But there's little ways we do stuff and how the energy is adjusted, right? There's little stuff, but then what happens at the back end, that identity of who they see themselves to be, it's different because now they have that proof of work that they did in the dark, and they blossom to a whole new level. I'll end with this. It's kind of like the Truman Show. Like Truman was living his life, doing his thing. He felt like he was at a good tick, right? He was completely unaware of a bigger reality that he could live into. Completely, boldly unaware of it, right? So what happens, we're living these lives feeling good. Howdy, neighbor. If I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, good night, you know? Like I'm great. But then when he was exposed to this bigger, broader, crazy world, it expanded the realities in his head, expanded his perceptions, right? And that's what I really do for people. I get them to get to that point where they're like, oh, damn, there's a whole different reality that my identity at this current place was unaware of for the future.
Yeah, I love that. And if you don't know, honey, the Truman Show was with Jim Carrey.
Have I seen that?
No, you haven't seen that.
I only watch what you tell me to watch.
Hey, I'm with you. He walked into the wall. When we went to Universal Studios, remember that blue wall? That's from, never mind. That's from the Truman Show.
The backdrop there.
Y'all got it. That's it. That's all that matters. Here. I love the dark to light, though, because I think that's important to talk about. We're talking about confidence and doing new things. And I think that everyone that's listening, whether, you know, on your show, on our show, like there's something that you do that you're not even aware of how confident you are, right? It could just be making dinner for your kids every night if you're a housewife, right? It could be you work in a retail store and you're really great with people. You don't have to think about it. You're just like on point with it. It just comes natural to you. And I'm wondering, like, if the audience, the listeners, like, can pinpoint what that one thing is that, one, you might not even give yourself credit for. And then two, what's the next level of taking that thing, or what's the next step in being super confident and having all that? Because it's kind of like you get to a point, I don't want to say you're cocky about it, but you can do it in your sleep. You know, like with you on the football field or on a stage, you've, again, built up that confidence, right? I feel like me hanging out on Clubhouse, if I'm in a small business room and I'm talking to small business owners, like I'm only speaking from experience. I know exactly what you've been, like I'm speaking, it's a flow. Right. You feel like I'm 100% confident. No one can come at me about any of this stuff because I've lived it. I know it, right? But I'm wondering for our listeners, one, what's that thing for you? And two, what would it mean to do it in a new way? Like, what's the area that maybe you've been sitting on that you want to grow in, or that new thing that you want to take your business to a new level, or maybe you've never shared your story personally and you want to be on a stage. Like, I think your book would help people with that, you know, trying to figure out how to step into that next realm.
So we
Yeah,
talking
and
about finger power.
go.
It's actually what we're talking about. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. It's I'll say this. I'm like, do I let him talk? It's in my head. So I did the Ninja Warrior stuff, and real quick, I had to learn how to do grip strength because I'm a heavy guy and I hang. And I was like, okay, how do I train? They said, well, you got to train your pinky. I was like, why train the pinky? They said, well, you didn't realize the pinky holds. If you cut your pinky off, you lose 50+% of your grip strength in your hand from the pinky finger,
Wow.
the most insignificant finger, right? So
Mm.
in life, I believe we all have this insignificant, incredible strength that we don't even pay attention to. And so that's
Mm.
where I think you're talking about. We all have that pinky finger power somewhere.
That's
Yeah.
incredible because I'm always thankful for my thumbs, but
Well,
I'm not ever thankful for my pinkies. That's
well,
game changing for me.
I think if you had to make a choice, you got to keep the thumbs because
I mean, unless you go on American Ninja Warrior.
exactly.
But that's interesting because
Yeah.
back to the pull-ups really quick. I feel like my upper body strength is good. I just feel like I can never hold on with my
Yeah.
fingers. So I would not do well in any of those
That's because
pull-up
you don't
things.
have pinky strength.
I don't.
Yeah, we
How
gotta
do you
work on
train your pinkies though? Do you have little pinky dumbbells?
No, you have like the little grip strength stuff. You know the handles they got. Most people just use the front fingers. They don't worry about the pinky because the pinky is just doing its thing. But when
Right.
you
Dang.
focus the pinky like by itself, just try it. You'd be surprised. Like that thing has got a lot of strength because you
Right.
got all these muscles down the side. I don't know. It's weird,
That's
but yeah,
amazing.
we do have all these strengths that people they lose sight of because you just get normalized to doing them.
So Anthony, I wanted to ask you something because I'm really fascinated with the identity conversation, and I'm thinking about like you were talking about like having these like multiple identities.
Yeah.
For you, what are some of the identities that you had to shake off, and do you have to shake them off to make room for the new ones?
Yeah, I think every idea we do have different ones, right? There's a different way that I operate with my wife or my kids or my clients or the podcast. It's just not that I'm a different guy, right? But there's different
Right.
expressions of my identity. And in those expressions, you do find the egos. Everyone has his own version of ego, right? How good I'm in a relationship. Think about the guy who's phenomenal in business, got a great ego there, but then he goes home and he's a horrible husband. There's probably
Mhm.
no ego there, right? So the idea is when you do get some of those, I think when we want to have this sense of self, you do have to sometimes shut off the crappy identities that have bad egos, because those ones
Mm.
won't allow you to like, pretty much give yourself permission to improve. It's the
Mm.
best way to explain it, right? Because if I haven't told myself it's okay to improve in this area, it's because I didn't give myself permission to show that I'm not the greatest, and that will stop the entire process of everything going on. It's like if you swim with ankle weights, there's that one little thing that still holds you down. So like for me, I had a bad ego of like football player. I got out of the NFL like I'm a football player. I'm great. I'm better than the rest of the public. I'm in the top whatever percent. I'm phenomenal. And then I get into the real world and I'm not. Like I'm way behind. I don't know business or
Right.
jobs. The,
Mm.
the best skill I have is tackling Karen down the hallway if she starts stealing stuff. Like that's what I can do right now. So I got to find a way to show up. And if I had kept the identity of I'm great, I'm amazing, then I would have never been successful in business. I had to shed that
Mm.
thing within the first 9 months, or I was going to be legitimately looking at bankruptcy. And I had to eat my pride big time. I had to swallow some real big like ego things and realize like, man, I don't know anything about this. There's no reason I should be coming at this with this big bravado because I
Mm.
have no reason for it. So
I
yeah, it's
love
a great
that.
question. And you do got to get rid of the ones that hinder the other one's ability to grow.
I
Yeah, I
love
mean,
that.
I love. Yeah, and I have another question because in your coaching, when you're helping people, like, what is the hardest part about that for people? Like, what gets in their way of shaking that identity that has that bad ego with it?
Well, because that ego is provided part of their life. And what happens is if you have created something in your life that's good and you attribute it to that thing, well, your thought is, well, if I let go of that ego and that thing, I lose all of what I got because we are the thing in our heads. There's this metaphor I use of like a tree. And it's like we all have like this fruit of this tree, right? The fruit of my labor. I had football. That was the fruit of my labor. And when that fruit fell off the tree, it rolled around for a bit. It lasted, didn't rot immediately. It could last a couple of weeks, go to the house, but eventually it rots and it dies. And a lot of us, we feel like if I give up that ego, that I'm going to rot and die like the fruit. And it
Yeah.
took me like 6 years to realize we're never, ever, ever the fruit. We are always the tree.
Mm.
And when you realize
Yeah.
you're the tree, you realize the tree created the fruit of the relationship, the health, the business. That tree created that. So people have the ego wrapped around the wrong thing. And if you go back and say, look, I just want to make an amazing tree. I don't care if that fruit's rotten. Like, I don't care if it wasn't great there. You can step into a space where you're not married to the outcome, but you're married to the efforts. You're married to the pruning of the branches, to the watering of the tree, to take care of that. And then it's an expression. You see an expression of this identity in this realm that blossoms. And if that thing falters and it fails, that's cool. That went down, that job failed, the business failed. It's cool. I still got a great family and I still got my health. And because I'm not that fruit. I don't feel as bad, right? That's kind of where I look and I step in and talk to people. Like when we're working through a lot of the coaching, they don't go to the next tier because if I tell them that the ego's bad here, they think that that's all they got. It's like, no, no, no. That's stopping the rest of the tree's fruit from actually blossoming. When you're focused on that one piece of fruit, you lose sight of the rest of it. So nothing else can grow. So chop the fruit. Let's get the tree healthy.
I love that because one of the things we share with our students is like that. To me, that's growth. Like growth is the willingness to abandon the element of yourself that used to work for you, that used to be helpful, that used to provide for you. And if you can abandon it, I mean, you got to be willing to do it. I mean, it's hard. It's not, I mean, it's a process in itself. So thank you for sharing that. I think I love
my
that.
follow-up question, because I know how important family is to you, and Eddie and I work together as a team and we're married. So my question is about Mrs. Trucks. Like, she's been with you since the, big identity, Anthony and the NFL, like all of that stuff. So you said something that kind of made me think back to like old identity or old Anthony who had the football identity, who thought he was like big shit. And then you're about to maybe file bankruptcy because there's no more fruit falling from that NFL tree. She probably watched you go through all these different identity shifts. How has that been just from a marriage standpoint, relationship? There's a really loaded question, and I'm sure there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
We both were 16. We got together, high school sweethearts, all that stuff. Went to college, and we crafted new identities on the fly, without intention, we'll call it. So I'm a student athlete. She's a student. Then I got a kid. We have kids. So we're both parents and students and a student athlete. I go to the NFL. It's just a sprint. And it's fun. It's a roller coaster ride. And then I hurt my shoulder and I come home and that roller coaster comes careening back downhill. And the thing is crazy. It's like, I went through that, right? And so she felt the backside of me neglecting the family, neglecting all that. And she was triggered to go through her own shift, right? Her own thing. So like she didn't have the skill sets in that identity to navigate a marriage. We were like 25, 26, I think 25 years old-ish. Yeah, 25. Trying to figure out, like, I got a business, she has a job, we got 3 kids, 2 are newborn twins now, and a 4-year-old. Like the craziness, like it was seriously, statistically, I don't even know how we're supposed to make it. Like America, what 50% of marriages end in divorce in America. You have a 50% higher chance of divorce if your parents were divorced, both ours were, and then multiples. It's like a 40% chance for multiples you get divorced. So we're looking at like life's gonna fall apart. We didn't know it though. And we both, I would say we started out by going through these shifts together, right? And then it was on its way out the whole time. And then we both divorced, went our own separate ways, and individually went through our own shifts. So she went through her like partying, hanging out, doing the friend thing and traveling, all that kind of stuff. Like she did her whole little bout of it. It never really was my wheelhouse in the same level. I've never been the drinker. She could always outdrink me back in the day, no lie. But like it was the thing, like she went and did her stuff. Like it was just, let's be honest, she wasn't the best mom. She'll tell you that too. Like nothing I'm telling you right now is stuff that she's, it's in a book somewhere, I think too. Like I wrote it. She hates that it exists, but she loves it too, if that makes sense. So like that's part of her identity, right? That was what she navigated. And then I had the same thing. And interestingly, I believe at certain times we both were we were both the hindrances to each other making a genuine shift. And it took us getting to the point of finally realizing who we were, and then forgiving each other for, like, we'll call each other's position in the roles of how it fell apart, and just becoming 2 different people. Like we were divorced for 3 years. It wasn't like we were doing it together. We had different partners. I was living with a girl in my house. She was living with some guy over in his house, like different worlds, right? But in some weird roundabout process, we both went through our own like growth and ownership. Like I had to drop a lot of ego, even more. That was probably like the biggest adjustment of who Anthony saw himself to be, in the pride and that football guy, right? He disappeared. That guy had no place. For the most part, that guy has no place in who I am today, except for the intangibles of how to work hard. But the bravado, the puff your chest, that I'm amazing that you have to have on a football field, he has no place in his life that I have right now. And for her, that girl that's like, I'm an amazing mom, I do all this stuff. Not that's bad, but like the way that she positioned it, just simply because she was like, well, I was just your wife and I took care of your son while you played football and da, da, da. I'm like, yeah, but I was paying for the bills in college because of my scholarship. Like there's different things that she realized, like, no, you did get us through college. Like, thank you. Like there's different parts that opened up.
Right.
And in doing so, created new people that then later on could come back together. But yeah, there was a lot that's in that space. There's a lot that we both had to individually work through. And we currently, to this state now, we're always adjusting and shifting. What's cool is as we do this, I love her for her, not for the amazing 7-figure business that she runs, for the amazing thing she does as a parent. She runs track now. She's in ridiculous good shape. Like she'll barely like look at sugar, let alone eat it. You know, like she's dialed. She's got more veins than I do. And so like she's dialed there, right? But then like she also doesn't look at me as like the guy on the stage, Tony Robbins. Halfway, we don't even care about that stuff. When I go back home, no one cares what I did. Like I go hit a stage with 3,000 people, come home. She's like, take the garbage out. Can you fix the stinking fence? Because the dog just did it right. And so I love her for her heart, for the way she communicates, what her beliefs are, what her vice, the identity, the tree. The trees love the trees. The trees don't love the fruits in this relationship.
I love that.
That's great.
That's powerful.
That's huge. Yeah.
So let's wrap it up. How do we give these books away? How can people follow you, listen to you? You've got a Clubhouse show. You've got 2 podcasts. You've got all kinds of stuff going on. Tell everybody where they can go find you, how they can connect with you, and all the good things.
Yeah. I'm gonna be on I-5 at 7:30, running down the street, throwing books out. So come get one in your car. No, I'm just kidding. No, if you go to, if you want to find me and follow me, Anthony Trucks on Instagram, simple place. That's where I go and hang out and spend my time. Even though I probably shouldn't because I'm on there too much sometimes, just sometimes. But if you want the book, which breaks down, the thing is the book is part concept. The first part is all about understanding the identity shift. And it's really simplistic, got some cool stories and good understanding. So people go, oh, I get an identity shift now. That's the first part. The second part is I didn't want to leave people hanging. I wanted to show them how to do this. So the second part of the book is very specific step-by-step frameworks that you can understand and you can work through the shift method that I do in my coaching that guides you through the steps where if you do it right, you could dog ear this book, set it next to the bed, you'll make the shift we're talking about right now. You'll wake up one day and you'll be in that different reality. Like, oh, here's a better one. Neo in the Matrix. Did you watch The Matrix?
Yes.
All right, we got that one, right? So it's the same thing. He's in his reality, wake up to a whole like, oh, there's a whole new world that could be, different. I can move objects with my mind. Maybe not that great, but like you get to that new reality, right? So that's what that's what the book does. And then those who are here now, if you guys go to identityshiftbook.com, simple 3 steps. You go get a book on Amazon, you come back and then you hit the code and bring your receipt from there. And then you go to the third step. And on the third step, if you enter the receipt and enter the code PUSH, P-U-S-H, you'll get the audiobook, the digital books you can look on your Kindle or whatever you want, as well as a workbook. And the workbook's like a $100 workbook that I had the team personally design from scratch because I wanted to give people the ability to read the book, get the information, but also have the best segments from my coaching programs that make, I think, the most progress and actually be able to work through them in real time on your own. So when you do this work, and I say work, and I've said it multiple times, it's work. This is the dark work we talk about. If you want to get to that bright light in the future, you got to do the dark work. It's not going to tax your mind and make you freak out, but it does become a little bit of like depth of thinking, right? You do that work, you will wake up and like start to at least peek behind the curtain and see a little bit more of who you can be in that different identity that can be part of your life.
Love that.
Oh,
awesome.
I forgot. In the first 10 people, the first 10 that use the code PUSH, I'm going to sign and I'm going to autograph an actual book. And I'm going to send it from my house to their house. Like I'll autograph it.
Yes.
Send it
That's
to their
awesome.
House. First 10.
Thanks. Well, thanks for your generosity. Awesome. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge. Thank you for shipping this book out into the world. Yeah. And we're just happy to have you and support you all the time. We love your work, love your videos. One last final what in the world before we let you go. I saw that you had posted, I don't know, maybe it was a month ago. You have friends that have 1-year-olds that are having like birthday parties, and like you and I have kids that are grown, but these people are our age having like 1-year-olds. That's bananas, right?
Stupid. It's the stupidest thing.
I'm glad we're not the only ones that think that.
16, he's going to go in college next year. I got 11-year-olds. And I'm like, when you start inviting me to like 5-year-old birthdays, I'm not coming, bro. Like right. I'm not. My kids will come and drive your kids' place. I don't know. It's weird because the way I look at it, all my kids will be out of the house when I'm 44. Mm-hmm. My son, he's going to be in college. He's going to be like, what I want to say, like I'll be 21 years old. I won't even be like 40 something yet. I want to say I'll be like 41 1 or 2 when he's 21. Like, it's nuts because so I could go to the bar with him and still look like his homeboy. You know what I mean? Like, so I think there's an interesting difference I look at. I always ask the question, is it better to have kids young or old? And I think it depends on the person you are. If you're a person who has to have a 9 to 5 and do your thing, and you have no aspiration of creating a business in any way whatsoever, I think it makes sense to establish your career, climb the ranks, have kids later, because you have, we'll call it, more stability later, right? Which I don't know if you even do that. But then I think for me, it's like I'm a guy that's nomadic. I like freedom. I need to have them young because I think for me, the way I look at it is like, I'm going to create something cool later, like now. So when I have like the money and the free time and everything, bro, I get to be young with them and travel. We took 2 back-to-back trips, one to Los Angeles and one to Oregon for my son's track meet out of the blue, because we have the time, the money, and the freedom to do it. And like, I get to be around. I can go train with my kids. Like, I like being young. I call it younger with my kids. So yeah, it's weird when I look at my best friend, or just like 1-year-old. Like, my wife and I are like, never. Is it IUD still working?
Oh,
Yeah.
right. I'm right there with your wife. I'm like, the thought of it makes me want to vomit because we're right there with you. Our youngest is 16. We have 16, 18, 20, and there's 2 about to be gone to college. We've got 2 more years, and then it's like party time.
This is the
right?
Get out of here. Yeah, I told my kids, I said, I want it to be where when people say, where are your parents? You go, I don't know. Let me call them.
Same. So we'll be vacationing together as empty nesters. But thank you so much, Anthony, for spending time with us. It's always a pleasure to have you on. We wish you nothing but amazing success for this book, your podcast, your Clubhouse show, everything that you've got going on, because we know you're doing amazing work in the world. So thank you so much, Anthony.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
All right. We'll see you later. Bye.